It's going to take investment in education in order to have a strong country. So we all need to stand together as a community and realize what's happening in education. So this is what's going to make America great, investing in education, supporting our children, and having parents, teachers, educators, legislators, everyone in the decision making. Thank you.
As you know, this is not your talk show. We're here, we are downtown in Glendale.
Awesome. Thank you,
For the
candidate.
Superintendent of Public Schools.
So the next
Candidate
candidate we're going to call
critical
up is candidate Dr. Tom Horne.
Race theory.
Oh, what about?
Or,
She was before me.
oh, is she?
Huh?
I mean, if you'd like.
Yeah, she got
All
here
right.
first.
I don't want to cut into the line.
That's okay, I'm in the park behind you. Close.
I saw you heard before me.
Then you can answer whether you're- oh, okay. Awesome.
You're in good shape.
I'm scared.
You got to come all the way down to the road for this guy.
Pretty good for 120 years old.
Okay, let's get the energy up. Good evening. Good evening. Let's try it again. Good evening. Good evening. Yeah, that's good. So, everybody on the stage and in the front row here would do 1,000,000 times better than the current superintendent of schools. So we're going to have a nice friendly primary. When I got the invitation to this event, I really appreciated it because it said we should spend the bulk, all or most of our opening statement on critical race theory. And that made me happy because if I were a voter, I'd want to know what candidate is best equipped to destroy critical race theory. And I immodestly say it's myself because I've done it once and I can do it again. Done it once? Have we had critical race theory before? Yes. Almost 20 years ago, when I was in my first term as superintendent of schools, I was superintendent of schools and I was attorney general, we had something in Tucson called ethnic studies. And part of the ethnic studies curriculum was critical race theory. And I'm going to read to you directly from the curriculum because I read the curriculum. They can't fool me, the liberals on TV saying it's harmless and so on. I know what's in the curriculum. Listen to this. This is from the high school curriculum. Unlike traditional civil rights, which embraces incrementalism and step-by-step progress, critical race theory questions the very foundation of the liberal order, including equality theory, legal reasoning, Enlightenment rationalism, and neutral principles of constitutional law. Why would they be teaching the kids to be against those things? Why would they teach them to be against equality theory? Because under equality theory, we're all equal. We're entitled to be judged as individuals on our merits, what we know and what we can do, and not based on what race we were born into. And they want to do things based on whether or not you belong to a governmental favored race. Why would they be against legal reasoning? Because the Constitution guarantees us the right to be treated equally and judged on our merits. Why would they be against, of all things, Enlightenment rationalism? Because they're irrational. And why would they be against neutral principles of constitutional law? Again, because the Constitution protects us all as individuals. So the way I found out about this was when I was serving as superintendent of schools, there was a woman named Dolores Huerta. How many of you have heard the name Dolores Huerta? Just a few. She gave a speech at Tucson High School where she said, Republicans hate Latinos. That was an abuse. That was a mandatory assembly, and that was abuse of her position. And when I criticized her, I had read that she had been Cesar Chavez's girlfriend. That was one of the reasons she was famous. And then there was a flood of criticism against me. She wasn't his girlfriend, she was his colleague. So I said, well, I didn't make it up, I read it, but it doesn't really make any difference. But then I got all these emails saying I was right the first time. She was Cesar Chavez's girlfriend. Anyway, people were saying, as superintendent, you should stop them from having controversial speeches in the schools. So I said, no, kids learn from controversy, but they need to hear both sides. So I asked Margaret Garcia-Dugan, who was my chief deputy. Margaret, would you stand up, please? Margaret is my campaign manager. She's my chief deputy. And I also have with me Johanna Hayward. Johanna, would you stand up? Johanna is a nationally recognized expert on why structured English immersion is superior to bilingual education and is published author on that subject. Johanna. So I brought Margaret down with me, and they did another assembly, and Margaret said, I'm a proud Republican and a proud Latina, and I don't hate myself. Well, in the middle of the speech, a bunch of kids stand up, turn their back to her, put their fists in the air. During my 8 years as superintendent of schools, I visited over 1,000 schools. Never before that and never after that did I ever see kids be rude to a guest speaker. It's the only case I ever saw that. So I inquired, and I found out they belonged to a group called Raza Studies, as part of ethnic studies. And Raza means the race. They like to say, no, it means the people, but look at any Spanish-English dictionary, Raza means the race. So I demanded the curriculum to read the curriculum, and that's how I got to read this. So I wrote a bill that was passed by the legislature to put a stop to it. No more courses dividing kids by race, because they divided them Anglos in classroom 1, African Americans in classroom 2, Latinos in classroom 3, Native Americans in classroom 4. No more dividing kids by race. No more teaching ethnic chauvinism, where we have to teach the kids to treat each other as individuals. No more causing resentment against other groups. And this law took effect the year that came after my being a superintendent of schools. So it took effect in January 1st, 2011, and I was sworn in as Attorney General like January 4 or something. So my last day in office, I held a meeting with myself. I declared them to be in violation of the law, and then as Attorney General, I enforced it. And when we threatened to cut off their funds, the Tucson board voted 4-1 to abolish the program. So I've destroyed it once, I can destroy it again. And so, since I left office, things have gotten very bad. A liberal Ninth Circuit judge declared my law unconstitutional. My successor didn't appeal it. It should have been appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. If I'm elected, we're going to test it again. We're going to bring it to the U.S. Supreme Court, which is even more conservative now than they were. And we're going to get that law back, and we're going to destroy critical race theory. How much? Steve, where are you, Steve? How much time do I have?
You still got a minute and a half.
A minute and a half, right. So quickly, I'll just talk about some of my other plans. Number one, stop them from bringing back bilingual education. When they had bilingual education, a pathetic 4% of kids were declared fluent in English in 1 year. At that rate, almost no one would ever become fluent. We brought in structured English immersion, trained the teachers. We got the rate of fluency up to 29%. At that rate, in 4 or 5 years, almost everyone became fluent. Why would anybody want to bring it back? The legislature almost passed it this year under Hoffman's influence. Why would anyone want to bring it back? Because they want to keep them separate from the rest of society so they can manipulate them. The radicals want that. Secondly, bring back the law that said that students have to pass a test to get a diploma. I was the first superintendent to enforce that. We need to show employers that the diploma means something, and we're no longer graduating kids that are illiterate. Third, hold districts accountable. If their test scores are too low, they can be taken over by the state. I was doing that. They don't do that anymore to hold them accountable. They need to be held accountable because no matter what zip code you live in, you're entitled to an excellent education. 30 seconds. Okay. Fourth, bring back what we used to call the AIM scholarship, the scholarship for kids who exceed rather than just are proficient. We have proficiency obsession in this country. A Chinese exchange student said, we put 80% of our efforts into the top 20%. You put your 80% of your efforts into the bottom 20%. Who do you think is going to win that contest? We need to emphasize excellence, academic excellence in our schools, and that will do it. And finally, on school choice, when I was in the legislature back in the 90s, I was the chairman of a conference committee where the Senate had passed a bill that would limit the growth of charter schools. The House didn't. In the conference committee, I was the chairman. I killed that so that the charter schools could grow as much as people wanted. And when I left office, we were first in the country in charter schools. 10% of our kids were in charter schools. Number 2 was Florida with 7%. So we need to have school choice. School choice, like every kind of competition, brings excellence to everybody that's involved. So I hope you'll support me. If you'll support me, one thing you can be sure of is I will destroy critical race theory. Thank you.
you off the top one. And our next candidate is Kimberly Fisher.